they didn't charge you with doing damage. They made you pay restitution for the investigation to find out if you did damage. So that means, like, if they were looking into me for murder and they had to do all these forensic tests, and then they found out I was innocent, and then they charged me for the investigation they did to find out I was innocent. Welcome back to the second hour of the Thursday segment of the Liberty Lineup, the naked truth, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. This is Ben McClintock with Garrett Green. Today, we'll be talking with Monty Wells. Monty Wells and Phil Lyman. What did they went on the most expensive dirt bike ride I've ever heard of.
Just ask them.
And we'll be talking with them about what's been going on with the BLM, the conspiracy they got involved to go after him and Phil. We'd like to thank our show sponsor, formerly EOS Mobile, now Patriot Mobile, rebranded to reflect who you, our listeners, are. Patriot Mobile, the only cell phone service that gives you the peace of mind that your monthly bills are supporting only conservative candidates and causes of your choice, including this show. Call 877-367-7524. Be among the first 10 callers during this show today, and you'll get a special offer if you mention the Liberty Lineup radio show. Call now, 877-367-7524. That is 877-367-7524. For more information, go to patriotmobile.com. Just a reminder that you can listen to the Liberty Lineup radio show online by downloading the K-Talk app to your smartphone or at k-talk.com. Great reception wherever you are. Become part of our grassroots movement by signing up at libertylineup.com, where you can also make a donation to keep this radio show on the air. Help us spread liberty around the world. So as I mentioned earlier, we have Monty Wells. Monty? Let's see here. Make sure we get you on. Monty, I appreciate you coming on the show. Is it kind of weird being on with such a liberal like me?
No.
So, just reading your article. So, Monty, you're a city council member there in Monticello, and you run a newspaper called The Petroglyph that people can check out at thepetroglyph.com.
Yeah, actually my term as city councilman ran out at the end of the last year.
Okay.
And I just run a news blog. I haven't published anything part of the paper yet, but
gotcha.
It's a blog.
At thepetroglyph.com. And that you can, our listeners can read this article that I wanted to talk to you about that you wrote called The Federal Government's Conspiracy and Collusion with Environmentalists. And it talks about, it gets into you and Phil Lyman, how you guys, your involvement there. And I thought it was kind of funny. It reminds me of what's going on a lot with the Bundys and whatnot, especially like with David Bundy being arrested for taking pictures of the BLM. You were charged with writing articles about Phil Lyman's ride. Right?
Yes. Yeah, I reported on it from, they had a town hall meeting, and I wasn't even at the meeting, but I was covering actually a hospital board meeting that night. But I started reporting on it, and that's what I got charged with conspiracy. Why I was charged with conspiracy.
Holy smoke. So me talking to you now, am I a part of this conspiracy?
Yes.
Technically, probably.
Wow. I mean, this is such a stretch that with their definitions and their connections that basically anybody that talks about it could be charged as a co-conspirator.
Oh, yeah. One of the guys that actually got charged, he got acquitted. But one of the guys that was there, well, two of them, one of them got charged as being a conspirator because he liked the Facebook post and then showed up to the protest. The guy that was with him, that was his friend, just showed up to the protest with him, and he was charged as a conspirator. And that's all they did.
So nobody's safe, Monty. Is that what you're saying? We know Pete Santilli's in jail up in Oregon for making them mad, being a thorn in the side, being a real reporter. He was, in my opinion, he was the only real. Well, he was the only real reporter. Maybe a couple other guys, but he was there the whole time. Certainly, the big dogs weren't there. Those that could have done the most good chose to sit down. They chose the coward's way out. They chose to stay back and watch from afar, and they've buried the story. Their silence is their complicity.
Yeah, it's definitely with the way the government's twisted around the conspiracy law. They can use that to get anybody they want for anything they want to get them for.
You know, I tried to get K-Talk management to put in a bigger door up front. We do have the guy, you know, up in front with the 12 gauge, but a bigger door might. And nobody's safe. This is crazy. Nobody's safe.
Yeah.
And so, in your article, you talked about how the BLM working together with the what is that? The Southwest Wilderness Alliance.
Yeah, the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance.
Sorry.
Boy, that lady's a sweetheart.
Yeah, she's a big fan of mine. Yeah, her and the Great Old Broads for Wilderness out of Durango, Colorado. They really decided they wanted to do something, I guess, and so then they just, from my article, you know, from the discovery we got like 600 pages of emails, and it took a while to go through all and find all the emails where they contacted the BLM and said, hey, did you see what Monty said today, or did you see what Phil said today, or, you know, just stupid stuff like that constantly. And then the BLM would take that Lance Porter and Juan Palma, and they'd pass it around throughout the BLM to sort of stir everybody up. So it's kind of interesting.
Wow. So that's what it looks like. So if our listeners go to thepetroglyph.com, they can look at your article that talks about this, and it has actually the PDF of all of these documents that you were able to get, the phone calls and the emails like you mentioned, where it was basically a vendetta against you to get you charged as a co-conspirator.
I believe so. For a number of years, both Commissioner Lyman and I have been very outspoken against what the BLM's been doing here in San Juan County. Mm-hmm. Basically violating their own rules and regulations. All of Indian Creek, they went in there, violated their EA that they had done in 2005 and built a bunch of campgrounds. And, you know, one of the, Indian Creek donated a bunch of money to the BLM, and so they put in a huge parking lot and a toilet, and all that violated the environmental impact statement or the environmental assessment that they had done for the area. And I've been reporting on it and filming it for, you know, quite a while, plus all the clearings. I've been doing quite a bit, sort of a thorn in their side. And so I think my feeling is that's exactly what all this is, especially with Liz Thomas. You know, when I told her people really didn't care in San Juan County what she had to think, she didn't like that very well.
No, that hurt her feelings, Monty. That really made her mad.
I know. That's why I'm not a very good politician.
The best kind of politician.
And that's why they went after you. And what was the extent of your punishment? What did they hit you with?
For writing a news article. I think we need to reestablish that for our listeners. You were punished. For writing a news article.
Yeah, for writing the news article, and then they drove down the county road to the end of the county road, and for doing that, I was charged with trespassing, and convicted. Out of the four of us, two of us were convicted on all counts. Two others were released, acquitted. Anyway, out of that, I got 3 years probation, 5 days in jail, and Commissioner Lyman and I have to pay the almost $96,000 in restitution.
How much?
$96,000.
$96,000
in restitution. What are they saying you damaged?
Doesn't matter. I hope you're a rich man, Monty. Otherwise,
well, right now
you're not rich anymore.
I'm trying to scrounge up money to buy a fridge. Plus paying my fine. But
unbelievable.
No, it's unbelievable. And the thing that they're obsessed, everybody's under the belief that it was for the damage, but it wasn't. What we're paying restitution on is to pay back what the BLM supposedly spent to determine there was no damage. They didn't come after us for damages at all in court.
No, Monty, they came after you because you left the reservation. You showed some assertiveness. You stood up for yourself. You stood up for the rule of law and what's right. You tried to hold them accountable. You stood up and opened your mouth. That's why they went after you. That's the only reason. Don't justify any of this nonsense. You left the mental and physical reservation we call the United States of America. We're all Indians here, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why you got fined $100,000. That's why Lavoie's dead. That's why Pete Santilli's in jail. That's why the rest of those guys are in jail. And they're probably building a bigger jail for all of us.
It wouldn't surprise me. Definitely. I mean, they definitely did what they wanted to do. And
so how can they get you for sorry for me stuttering. It's just so amazing that. So they didn't charge you with doing damage. They made you pay restitution for the investigation to find out if you did damage. So that means, like, if they were looking into me for murder and they had to do all these forensic tests, and then they found out I was innocent, and then they charged me for the investigation they did to find out I was innocent.
Yeah. And the other part of it is that the part that they assessed is the part of the... See, what it is down in recapture, and this is the other thing, that the collusion that I talked about, is that when Commissioner Lyman started talking with the BLM originally, he was talking to them about, this is what this town hall meeting that people want to do, and I would like to work something out to where we can do some kind of service project to get everybody involved, get the trail open, that kind of stuff. And right from the beginning, the BLM wouldn't hear of it. And the trail in there, what there is there's about 3 miles of road, and that road has a 27-inch pipeline underneath that water pipeline that was put in 1986. There's a 50-foot right-of-way. When that was put in, that was all cleared, mitigated for any sites, anything dug up, buried the pipeline. At the time of the protest, or when they closed the road, or they never closed the road. That's the other thing. Judge Shelley came out and said that road is legally closed. He was totally wrong. It's never been closed. The emergency closure did not close that road. It can't close that road because it is under a special use type thing, and that's even listed in the closure. Because of the right-of-way, plus there's a miner that was in there doing placer mining with heavy equipment. He had the right to be down there and use that road. That road's used daily by the Water Conservancy. Anyway.
Wow.
That's the road we were on. Wow. Nobody even assumed that we would be in trouble for being on that road. Now, once you left the road, there was 2 miles of two-track, and that's what the question was.
Right.
And in everybody's mind, for the most part. And
Monty, I'm sorry, we've got to go to a break. I hope everybody goes to thepetroglyph.com and check out his article, The Federal Government's Conspiracy and Collusion with Environmentalists. There's Monty Wells from thepetroglyph.com. Thanks so much for joining us, Monty.
You bet.
Talk to you later. This has been McClintock on the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Check out our sponsor at patriotmobile.com. On the line here, we wanted to introduce you to our guest. We have Monty Wells, who has been an elected official down. Oh, we've got 2 minutes before the break, so we're just going to introduce you, Monty. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
Sorry we took a little while to get you on the line there, but we've got you, and we want to hold you on for the rest of the hour to talk about what's been going on. If you go to if our listeners go to your website, thepetroglyph.com, they can find out about this. Well, we had you on before. I didn't feel like we gave you enough time to really get into the meat of what was going on. But just tease our listeners real quick before we go to the commercial break. What's the meat of the matter of what's been going on with the ride down there in Capture Canyon and the county commissioner there, Lyman, Phil Lyman. Tell us more about that, Monty.
Well, just basically, quickly, there's just been a lot of misinformation on that the BLM is fully aware of, that they lied about, and then they also intentionally set up Commissioner Lyman to be charged with a crime, telling him he can't go in the canyon, and then turn around and telling him, yeah, it's okay if you go do what you're going to do, and then right after that telling him he's going to get charged. So they just basically set him up and told the public he was committing a crime when he really wasn't.
Wow. So they were. That's amazing that this federal agency would set up an elected official, set him up like you said, set him up so that they could get. It was basically entrapment, is what it sounds like.
Oh, exactly, and it was done through the Department of Justice as well as the BLM.
This sounds like more than just you can't trust your government officials. This sounds like criminal.
An actual criminal conspiracy. So this has been McClintock and Enoch Moore. And this is the Naked Truth segment of the Liberty Lineup radio show on AM 630 k-talk.com. And we're speaking with Monty Wills of the Petroglyph. What do you think about the topic? Go to our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup radio show. Comment now and like and share. Also, call us at 801-254-5855. We'll be right back after the break. This is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore, and you are back on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, k-talk.com, with the Liberty Lineup, the Naked Truth Thursday show, sponsored by the medicalcostshare.com. Medical cost. I know these guys. These guys really, I know them personally. I've known them for many years, actually, and they are the epitome of just solid values. They've got their integrity is really unquestionable, and so I hope you'll check out Medical Cost Share, our sponsor of this segment. Join our grassroots network and get our updates and alerts, and support the cause of liberty at libertylineup.com. That's libertylineup.com, and you can also like and share our Facebook page, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. And we are joined today by Monty Williams, who runs the Petroglyph. Go to the Petroglyph.
Monty Wells.
Monty Wells, I'm sorry.
I think that's a TV show.
Montel Williams. Monty Wells. At thepetroglyph.com. I hope our listeners will go to thepetroglyph.com, where he's written about this, about the situation of really basically a criminal conspiracy between federal agencies to put local elected officials in jail.
Now, before you move on that, for those who have just tuned in and want a little teaser, later on in this show, we're going to talk about more criminal conspiracies. We have breaking news and a smoking gun. So stay tuned.
Later on in the show.
And if anyone you know who's interested in the Lavoy Finicum case, we are going to break something that has not been talked about, at least not from this angle. And you're going to want to stay tuned the next hour and a half. And speaking of criminal conspiracies,
and not just conspiracy theory, but actual, conspiracy is an actual crime that somebody can be charged with, and it's what it seems like. You go to thepetroglyph.com. There's an article by Monty Wells called "The Federal Government's Conspiracy and Collusion with Environmentalists." Monty, thanks again for joining us.
You bet.
So give us a recap, give us the meat of it, and let's get into the details. What's going on?
Okay. Just to give everybody a little bit of background on it, when we were charged in the recapture protest, the prosecutor, when we did our discovery, they dumped 8 DVD discs of information on us, and including in that was 600 emails. And so it's taken some time to go through everything, and I continue to go through it and stuff because we're doing an appeal and things as well. As going through all this, started seeing a pattern from the very beginning when Commissioner Lyman, when the meeting was held, the public meeting was held in Blanding in February. Right after that, Commissioner Lyman contacted the BLM and told them, hey, this is what the public wants to do. They want to have a ride down recapture. what can we do to make this, peaceful and not have any problems, but get the trail opened. It's been closed for 7 years. Anyway, from that time on the backside of things, in the emails, they're corresponding with the news media, especially the Salt Lake Tribune, Mathley, giving him information that's derogatory. He publishes it. Then they turn around and promote it out throughout the BLM as if it's gospel, generating this whole story of violence and militia and wrongdoing by Commissioner Lyman, which was never anything that Commissioner Lyman mentioned. Mm-hmm. And so you start seeing that, and then it sort of comes to a head. It really becomes evident in a letter that they presented to Commissioner Lyman around April 28th, telling him that if he goes in that canyon, he's going to be charged. Well, we found an email that was just prior to that, April 25th, that was sent by the solicitor, John Steiger, from the Department of Justice, to Jenna Whitlock, who is now the acting director of the BLM. And in that email, it says, here's the attached letter that we want you to give to Commissioner Lyman. We need you to read it, go over it, everybody, make sure it says what you want, get it back to me by 1 o'clock. And then it says, we want to highly publicize this letter, widely publicize it is the words they use, to get this story out, basically, to set the stage.
Right.
And so they go, Lance Porter there in Moab, who is the regional manager, I believe, gets this letter, takes it to Commissioner Lyman on the 28th at a meeting they had with the commissioners, gives it to him, tells him, hey, this is just between you and me, you and the BLM. We just want to make you aware you're going to be charged if you go in this canyon. By the time Commissioner Lyman gets home, there's a message on his phone from Greenwire, environmental group,
right,
news source, asking him to comment on this letter. Well, Commissioner Lyman starts calling around saying, what are you guys doing? You gave this to me. Did you send it out to these guys? And this is all recorded. The phone conversations he had with Lance Porter and with Juan Palma, and he talks to Juan Palma, who was the director at the time, and says, hey, did you guys publish this? And he says, no, nobody in my office did. Well, they talk about it a little bit, and then on May 1st, Juan Palma gets back with him because he was going to check, to make sure nobody did. May 1st, Juan Palma gets back with Commissioner Lyman and says, no, I checked with everybody. We did not publish that letter. I don't know anything about it. The funny thing is the email was sent to Juan Palma.
Oh.
He was fully aware that that was what they were going to do. So was Lance Porter. Lance Porter is mentioned in the email. So that was sort of the start of it. And then in the conversation on May 1st, that's the recording that the Judge Shelley wouldn't allow to go to the jury, that Juan Palma says, okay, Phil, I understand what you're doing, basically. Go ahead and ride, walk, have your celebration in the canyon, do what you need to do. It's okay. And then we'll get together and talk about the rest of it and go from there.
So this recorded conversation was that basically cleared Phil Lyman of any wrongdoing was not allowed to be heard by the judge. Did he give a reason why he would not admit that for the jury to hear?
He said it was untimely. It was part of the defense, and when they presented it and tried to get Juan Palma was on the stand, and when they tried to present it and get him to identify it and everything, you should have saw their faces. It was like, holy crap, they've got something they can use.
Right.
Everybody started stuttering, and pretty soon the judge just said, no, it's untimely. You can't just present evidence.
What? Untimely? So if you're on trial for murder and all of a sudden we've got DNA evidence that just came out that can clear the accused, but it's untimely, so he goes to jail for murder that there's proof that he didn't commit. I mean, that seems like it would be a similar situation.
Yeah, well, and the other part of it is, see, we don't have to present our case to the prosecution before we give it.
Right.
And so we were not required to disclose our case to the prosecution or to the judge prior to presenting our case to the jury.
Because they had the evidence themselves. They were a part of providing that to you, correct?
Well, they provided to us, all their stuff, but this
Right.
is evidence that we had from
Gotcha.
the recorded conversations of Commissioner Lyman.
Right.
And so when Lyman's attorney presented it, he had it typed out to give a copy to the prosecutor and everything, just like you would. and started building foundation and just got shut down, basically. And then the judge said, no, this is untimely. You can't present this.
That's
and
outrageous.
Pretty much threw it out. But
what's the determination of untimely? Evidence that shows that you committed no crime. What did he want you to do?
Well, basically, I think what the thing was, later on he recused himself because he's best friends with lead counsel for SUA. Well, SUA
the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, for our listeners.
Their attorney, there's an attorney on there, Liz Thomas, that used to work for him that was very instrumental in getting us charged. We have tons of emails on on the website and stuff from her, sending them to Lance Porter, having meetings with Lon Palma. Every time I would write something, anytime Phil would say something, it was like a little kid running to the teacher, Did you see what Phil and Monty did today? And it's just constant.
That was an interesting part of the case. It was like as I was watching these developments come out of one judge after another recusing themselves because of some conflict of interest or another. It was just amazing.
Yeah, it was just I have never seen anything like it, and I worked in law enforcement for a lot of years, even as a federal law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And so it was just unreal what was going on, but. The reason, I think, is just because of how screwed up it was. I mean, what judge wants to take on a mess that some other judge created?
Right. Exactly. So after the first judge recused themselves, did the next judge allow you to bring forth that key information that proved your innocence?
No. By the time Judge Shelby finally recused himself, Phil got a different attorney. That attorney went in and wrote up whatever it was, a motion to have him recused. And by that time, we had already went through the trial and been, convicted. So even though Shelby got recused for his associations and all this crap, there was nothing we could do.
So you've been convicted of a crime that you can prove that you didn't commit.
Exactly.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Are we living in America anymore when you're not allowed to present your own evidence of your own innocence? What?
That's like it reminds me of the Bundy case where the judge says that Cliven Bundy can't choose his own lawyer.
Yeah. It seems like we've moved across the Atlantic Ocean over into Red China or somewhere.
Soviet Union or. So we're speaking with our listeners. This has been McClintock and Enoch Moore, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. We're speaking with Monty Wells of thepetroglyph.com. Thepetroglyph.com. I'll spell that for you. The Petroglyph, so PETROGLYPH.com. I hope you'll check out the article, Federal Government's Conspiracy and Collusion with Environmentalists. And it has, like Monty Wells has been talking about, the emails, and the text of conversations that show that there's literally collusion, a conspiracy of elected officials with environmentalists and judges getting together to be able to put local elected officials in jail. So we've been working. So I just wanted to let everybody know, everybody didn't catch us when we first introduced you, Monty, of what's been going on. And so if you're not aware of what the Recapture Canyon ride was, Monty, will you tell our listeners I guess we've kind of gotten ahead of ourselves, but give some background of what this was. So of what it was.
Basically, Recapture was closed in 2007 as an emergency closure. And according to the BLM regulations and stuff, it's a 2-year. An emergency closure can only be used to protect, it has to be closed right now because it has to protect something. And then they have a limited time that they can keep it closed until they do other stuff. Well, and that limited time is like 2 years. Well, in 2011, it was still closed, and we held another protest where we went down to the BLM office, had some speakers there, Commissioner Lyman, Commissioner Adams, and then we went for a walk down Recapture. We invited the BLM to go with us on this walk and just sort of talk about it down Recapture. They wouldn't go. They sent all their law enforcement. I actually spent the day walking down with Jason Moore and another BLM ranger, talking and visiting. Jason had been in the Border Patrol, so had I, so we had some stuff in common. Anyway, that was in 2011. The BLM kept saying, oh, it's going to be done, it's going to be done, it's going to be done. Well, the reality is that there's documentation showing that the reroute and everything was done within the first 6 months of the closure, and it was authorized to go ahead and redo that. And then we got some new people in the BLM, a new archaeologist, and they just sort of shut that down and just started stonewalling the whole process. So there was that going on with recapture. Indian Creek was another issue where they had illegally closed a road, the BLM had, and they had done a bunch of stuff above and beyond the environmental impact statement that, their EA that they had done. They were violating their own EA. And there was other things going on within the county. So in 2014, the public had that, what do they call, community meeting. And at that meeting, they said, we need to do something to bring some attention to all this abuse that the BLM's doing in San Juan County, and they're not listening to the elected officials in San Juan County. They're not working with the county. They're not, they're just doing whatever they want. And so that's what come up was, well, recapture is a pretty high profile. They decided they wanted to do that. I wasn't at the meeting. I was actually covering a hospital board meeting. But that's what they decided to do, and so that's how it started. And the protest was basically just that, to bring attention to the BLM violating their own regulations and laws on the closure and recapture, the stuff in Indian Creek, the closures of other roads in the county, and that's what it was set up for. And if you look at the stuff, the comments that Commissioner Lyman made to the media, the ones that got it right, to the most extent, Desert News and some of those, he's just talking about we need to bring this, we need to get the BLM to work with the local authorities like they're supposed to. And that was what the whole protest was about.
Right. Wow.
And that's why, even Commissioner Lyman early on did not want to do anything to damage any archaeological sites or anything like that.
Of course.
And he made that known to the BLM. But then they started twisting it all around. The funny thing is the road that we were charged for driving down, and it was a road. It's a road. It's a county road.
Right.
With a 27-inch water pipeline buried underneath it, 50-foot right-of-way.
So it's not like it's all natural.
No, not at all. And there was a mining operation going on in there that didn't shut down until 2009. Right. He had heavy equipment.
We got about 30 seconds to the break. Sorry.
Anyway, they just went down there a month ago and brushed out the whole trail, redid the road, the whole thing.
So they're riding up there, but they're saying that you can't.
Yeah, and they're taking equipment in, cleaning out the road, and all we did is drive down the road on an ATV.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
you talked about some of the emails that are going on and the things that they are accusing you of militia and violence and that kind of stuff. That's something that's par for the course, and we'll talk about that when we get back from the break. This has been McClintock with Enoch Moore, and we're speaking with Monty Wells of the petroglyph.com. This is the Thursday segment of the Liberty Lineup Radio Show, The Naked Truth, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. Again, we've been speaking with Monty Wells of the petroglyph.com. For more information, go to our Facebook page, The Liberty Lineup Radio Show. After the break, we'll be speaking again with Monty Wells of the petroglyph.com.
American way, and we built this country called the USA, and we fly our flag because we're proud and free, we're American.
This is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore. We are back on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, k-talk.com with the Liberty Lineup Naked Truth segment, where we think right and wrong, not right and left. And, of course, we are sponsored by Patriot Mobile. Join our grassroots network to get our updates and alerts. Just go to libertylineup.com. That's libertylineup.com. Sign up and support the cause of liberty. That's libertylineup.com. You can also like and share our Facebook page, The Liberty Lineup Radio Show. And this is Ben McClintock and Enoch Moore from defendingutah.org. We hope you'll like our YouTube channel. Not like, but subscribe to our YouTube channel there, the Defending Utah YouTube channel. And we've been speaking with Monty Wells of the petroglyph.com about his article and about the events that were going on with the Recapture Canyon ride. But if you go to the petroglyph.com and check out the article, Federal Government's Conspiracy and Collusion with Environmentalists. it really goes through and gives all the details, evidence actually that was not allowed in court, and that actually documents and proves that it not only the innocence of Phil Lyman and Monty Wells, but the fact that the government and these government agencies colluded to entrap these two individuals. Thanks for joining us, Monty.
You bet. I appreciate it. You know,
So-
you brought up a good point just before we went to break on talking about, you know, them coming up with this story about militia and everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing that just amazes me. They've done it with us. They did it with the Bundys. They did it with the thing in Oregon.
Yep.
You know, here you go. You got some people that are out just talking about liberty, trying to hold their government accountable by using their First Amendment rights.
Right.
And what does the government turn around and do? The first thing they start talking about is guns, because that scares everybody.
Exactly.
Second thing they do is link them to some evil militia,
Right.
which doesn't even exist.
Exactly.
And then they tie it all together and just demonize it to the point that anybody that doesn't keep themselves informed or doesn't have a clue buys into saying, well, my government's telling it to me, it must be true.
I heard on the media and the government saying it. Yeah, they wouldn't lie to me, right?
Exactly.
The same
Well, then
thing
you-
happened actually to us. The Salt Lake Tribune did 2 different articles telling the legislature, a couple, Ken Ivory and Mike Noel, to get defending Utah in line. Otherwise, all these this effort to get the land back from the feds was going to turn to bloodshed, accusing us of going violent.
Uh-huh. Now, the Salt Lake Tribune, they're in the pocket of the government, especially the BLM,
Yep.
and they do anything they're asked to do.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing they may say that's true is the date.
And you got to double check that.
Yeah, exactly. But you look at what happened down here, for example. There was never any talk of militia. There was never any talk of violence. There was nothing. They tried to get me, in court, charged with extra penalties because I had a gun on my leg. And
Which is
because
completely legal.
Exactly. And because I was wearing camouflage. Well, guess what? I spent 15 years in the military. When I go out in the backcountry, I wear military clothes, and I carry a gun with me everywhere I go. And if that means I broke the law, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I earn the right to do that.
So I didn't realize that wearing camouflage pants and carrying a gun automatically made you a part of a radical militia intent on doing harm to others, right?
Exactly. The funny thing is the guy, the Forest Service law enforcement guy that testified for the government is a friend of mine. We've been on a number of rides together. We served on search and rescue together. They got him on the stand, and they started making this point about the camouflage and stuff, and he told them, well, that's the way he dresses all the time. So it was no big deal, but the fact is they just try to demonize it all.
So fashion statements are now a point of crime, a point of criminal law now, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you look at the pictures, you go in and look at the pictures over in Oregon. Who are all the people dressed like they're in the military getting ready to take back Kuwait?
Exactly.
It's not the militia guys. It's not the Bundys. Most of the pictures you see of them, nobody's even got a gun in their hand.
Well, that's the funny thing, and that's the point that we've tried to make in the past. It's the government and the media always portrays the supporters of liberty as being violent, whereas the people on our side have never ever instigated the violence. It's always the government that's instigated the violence.
Exactly. If there was going to be violence, there would have been violence at the Bundy Ranch.
Exactly.
But there was no violence, and yet the government was still killing all their cows, doing everything they could to make it happen.
Yep.
And it didn't happen. It hasn't happened. When has the militia ever done anything? When has anybody done anything? San Juan County, there has never been an incident down here where we've assaulted or abused or attacked any BLM or federal agent. Ever.
Ever. It's always the BLM or the federal government, FBI, that's instigated the violence. Where you go back to the Waco, you go back to Ruby Ridge, you go back to any of these things. It shows that it's not the people that are instigating the violence, but it's the government.
Exactly, because that's the only way they can operate is by force. Their whole operation is force. And if they don't have that, they're not going to control us. And if they don't criminalize us, we're not going to be controllable.
Yeah.
So they've got to make us all criminals in order to control us, and that's what they do in the media.
So on your article, Monty, at thepetroglyph.com, you've got all the evidence that shows the emails of the collusion between government officials that trying to entrap you and Phil into doing something, telling you that what you're going to do is not illegal. All of those things are documented on your website. And you said that you're appealing the case, even though Phil served time in jail. Have you served time in jail for your conviction?
Yeah, we both completed our sentence as far as our time.
So is it too late for an appeal? What happens if you appeal your case and you win?
I guess I count it as a vacation. I don't know.
Do they reimburse you for your time?
I doubt it. I don't know. Yeah,
So
I
how's
don't
that
know.
going? How's that appeal going?
Well, we've got some deadlines. We're going to be turning it in here shortly, and then we'll go from there and see how it turns out. This whole thing, it's just people don't realize that when you get the government after you, there's no other animal on this earth that can make your life so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got unlimited funds to torture you until you cave.
Exactly. They can destroy everything you are, and that's what they're out to do.
And so we've got, as Americans, we've got a choice to make. Are we going to capitulate and allow them to do that, to do whatever they want because we're too afraid to let them destroy our lives, or are we going to stand up?
No, exactly. And, I mean, you think of these poor guys, the Bundys and all the people that have been rounded up over this last deal, stuck in solitary confinement, 1 hour a day out, and what did they do? What crime did they commit? What crime? They didn't hurt nobody, they didn't kill nobody, and they're in solitary confinement.
They're following that same line with you, with the Bundys, with everything that went up in Oregon, and what they said about defending Utah in the Salt Lake Tribune is, that they called the Oregon situation a virus that had to be stopped.
Yep.
And so it's amazing. It's amazing. And so, what are some final thoughts that you want to leave with our listeners as we go to the top of the hour break?
Well, I think the most important thing is don't believe me. I don't want you just to take my word for it. I don't want you to believe just because someone says it. People need to take the time to find out for themselves what is really going on here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, read it for yourself. It's all right there for them on the website as to what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
It's in their own words. Even in my situation, I turned the BLM in for that closed road in 2012.
Yeah.
And the officer that investigated, that was sort of involved in that with the BLM, was Jason Moore, who did the investigation down here
Right.
on recapture. And during the one up here, he impeded the investigation of the sheriff. And so did the solicitor. They said, oh, okay, if the sheriff wants to do an investigation, we'll let him.
Right.
Because I did a grammar request and got all their emails. And so I wrote an article about that in January of 2014, accusing them of obstructing justice.
Mm-hmm.
And then during the ride, when Jason's in the canyon taking pictures, guess who are the only two people he identifies? Myself and Ryan Bundy.
Wow.
So tell me that isn't a little bit of vindictiveness and a little bit of unprofessional stuff, to go after me because I've already called him out on some illegal stuff he's doing.
Definitely gone personal and trying to get revenge on you. And so it reminds me of other cases where there's this case up in Bountiful where the elected officials are being investigated for ethics abuses. And they're saying that if you investigate me for ethics violations, I will sue you. And so it's stopping any kind of investigation into ethics. Same thing with you. If you start investigating and showing the crimes that these people are doing, they're going to go after you to try and stop any kind of exposure of government corruption.
Exactly. And it has. I mean, my business, everything that I've done down here is in a mess right now, and same with Phil.
I bet.
I mean, the government has sicked the tax IRS on Phil several times.
Wow.
The whole thing. I mean, they just keep coming, and who has the money to even deal with that?
Oh, they'll just print more, so they've got unlimited funds on that.
Exactly. No, exactly. So people just need to really pay attention to what they're trying, what the media's saying, because, most media stuff is maybe, I don't know, I don't even know if it's half true. But you need to figure it out yourself.
It's amazing how you read an article about you and you're like, man, they weren't even at the same place I was at.
Yeah, you wonder why they even put my name in the article.
Exactly.
So,
Well, Monty, I appreciate you being on the show today, and I hope our listeners will check out your website, thepetroglyph.com. I hope to have you on again soon.
No, I appreciate it. Hopefully they don't sweep me up and throw me in solitaire for this.
We'll be there for you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, thank you.